Let's do it. All right, good afternoon and welcome everybody. We are live once again in our Friday lunchtime webinar. So thanks very much to many of you who have joined us over the last few weeks as we've been getting these going. I think we've covered some very valuable topics and we've had lots of great feedback from everybody. So as everybody's coming online, please won't you just say good afternoon, let us know that you can hear us and see us, and tell us where you're from, very importantly. So we've had lots of universities engage in these webinars, and hopefully we've got some people from Gibbs today. So Jeff, I hope you've got your loyal following coming online and hopping onto the live stream. So guys, please just do let us know where you're from. We've had Tukkies, we've had Pretoria, we've had Wits, we've had Cape Town University, we've had Nelson Mandela Bay. We've really had quite a wide group of people coming onto these live streams, which has been absolutely fantastic. And I think, hopefully lots of people getting value. So Cara, hi there, coming in from Tux. You're a loyal, regular listener. So thank you for joining us today. And Cara is also very involved and engaged and supportive in the Facebook group. So those of you that are looking for a safe space to get some encouragement and support, please do join the Facebook group. We'll put links and everything from there. But Jeff, we'll get into the interview just now, but while everybody's coming online, tell us what has your day been like today? The life of a sought after international speaker and business MBA lecturer. What's your Friday been? What did you have for breakfast?
Well, I don't generally eat breakfast, believe it or not. 2 double espresso. I'm on the go, which is very bad, I know. And after that, what I've been doing is marking pre-proposal for the certain PhD students. Just see how they have been arguing, sentencing correctly and all that. But yeah, so far it's been fun, and I've been looking forward to this session for a while. So yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Only a pleasure, Jeff, and we've been looking forward to having you. And also thanks for being part of our group, our members only Facebook group as well. It's incredible to have a double PhD in our group, and we're going to talk a lot about that just now and find out what possessed you to do a second PhD. So hi, Yolandi, great to have you on board. And I know Yolandi's looking at getting into some research. So I'm pretty sure that she's going to get lots of value from today. And just looking at a lot of the names on the chat, I recognize many of you from the Facebook group. If you're not in the Facebook group, please come and join us. And that's where you get a lot more sort of intimate and regular interaction and support and encouragement from not only myself, but many of the other students who are also going through research and struggling with motivation and getting going in their studies. Often you just need that trigger of someone else that's in there with you. It can be a very lonely journey as we're going through our studies. So great, good to see everybody coming on. Let's see, University of Pretoria, Tux, Northwest, fantastic, CSIR, Nelson Mandela, University of Pretoria. And I had a comment in the webinar last week to say that we really needed to get this out to the other universities. And I've been working very hard on doing that. So hopefully next year, as we do these on a regular basis, we'll see many more universities coming online. We've got about 26, formal higher education university level institutions in the country. And we're great to have as many of those on board as possible. Guys, let's get started. I'm so keen to have, Jeff on the show and get his incredible knowledge. We are recording this for the podcast as well, which will go out live next year. So many people will be listening into this and getting lots of value even beyond the live stream today and the recording of it, which will also be available on the YouTube channel. So please go and subscribe there and you'll get notifications of all the new videos that come online. So Jeff, welcome. And let's start with the first question. Why on earth would you do a second PhD? And tell us about that process.
All right, before I start talking about me, I need to spend 1 or 2 minutes to compliment about you. I think this initiative, what you started is beautiful. And, ladies and gentlemen, the Peter, Dr. Alkema I know of, is always so enthusiastic, so eager to help people. I would like to take on a little bit of memory lane, how I first met this gentleman. Because I just started lecturing in Gibbs, and I thought that I need to really enhance my knowledge, because lecture is not just about learning from the books. I need to learn from practitioners. And I start Googling, and this Peter's name pop out, and quite influential, very knowledgeable in the digital space. So I just took a chance to write to him, say, can we meet? I'd like to learn from you. And he booked an hour just for me. Only problem is, en route to see him, I got mugged.
I remember that. I remember that.
And then he still was so supportive, and through my PhD journey, I think I acknowledge you in one of my acknowledgement. You were one of the person I acknowledge, because whenever I talk to Peter, he's just so inspirational. He helped me to think about different ways of dealing with the problem. So yeah, thank you, Peter, for accepting my coffee invitation right from the start. Appreciate it. And I think one day we need to interview you in your own show.
Be a pleasure, Jeff. And thank you very much. I remember that. And I've said a couple of times in the webinars that, I'm a real person, you're a real person. And really what we try and create with a community like this, and there are many others out there, is just a genuine safe space for students like ourselves to come in, get some value, have the discussions, get the support and the coaching. And we are building some content, we are building some structure, and we're trying to get this network out there for the benefit of students that are able to take advantage of this. So thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that trip down memory lane. And thank you to you. We've collaborated on a number of research papers. I've learned a lot from you, and you're just a fantastic guy and a good friend. So appreciate you having you on the show today.
Cool. So why did I do my second PhD? Long and short of it, I had a little bit of hiccup in my life, had a little bit of almost burnout. So I decided to quit my job, because I look at myself, I ask myself this profound question: is this all I want in life? South Africa has been so kind to me. Is this what it is? And just shortly before that, I did my second master degree in executive coaching. I was going to coach someone else, but then I end up coaching myself out of the job. So I look around, what do I want to do? And it just happened in 2008 or somewhere there. I went to New Orleans for a conference. I sat in the front row. Professor Clayton Christensen, one of the guru in innovation, give a talk. And I was just fascinated by the topic. And since I quit my job, I just decided to take up another PhD. And one thing led to another. I just got lucky. I ended up lecturing at Gibbs. So that was it. But I'm not sure that I would advise anyone to do a second PhD. Yeah, if you really want to. And maybe we can talk about this a little bit later and see how the question unfolds.
No, that's super, Jeff. So I have asked everybody just to put a couple of questions in the chat, and I'll choose one or two to ask you, which will be great for people that are watching in, to really put questions directly to yourself, and that'll be fantastic. But I mean, I guess let's just work through a couple of themes, with regards to postgraduate level research, or people considering postgraduate level research. And I mean, a lot of people listening today on the podcast or watching on the live stream today or as a recording, maybe considering getting into postgraduate level research. And, the world has been disrupted as we know it. So things are changing. But I'm certainly still passionate about, higher education and the value and the contribution that people can make through good, disciplined, rigorous academic research. But there is a personal journey to that. And I'd just like to unpack a couple of key themes. And I think you've got some incredible insights, about that journey. So maybe let's just start, from the heart. I mean, the sort of purpose or the sort of orientating your mindset around getting into it and why you would do it. Maybe you've got some do's or don'ts on that one, Jeff.
Sure. So I'm busy writing the book, but this has been a long journey. But in my book, one of the chapters I talk about, stop looking for purpose. Try to look for meanings and energy. Because your purpose change along the way, but somewhere down the line, when you dig down deeper, what does this mean to you? What does it mean to the world? And if I do this, will that give me lots of energy? Maybe some of you want to do another PhD or master degree, but maybe the timing isn't right. You want to pursue this direction and it actually sucks the energy right out of you. It might not be the best timing. So I spend lots of time thinking, now I quit my job, what would I want to do? Or just give me some meanings I think can go out and help people and also give me some sort of fulfillment. I just love challenges. I love to understand how different people think. And I like to understand how logical discourse and arguments are put together. And it gives me the energy. So when the meaning's there, energy's there, so I thought, why not give it a go? And for individual want to go into the advanced research, maybe you can practice this philosophical ikigai, the Japanese principle. How do you look for passion, the world wants? But later on, I'll post it on the Facebook. And those are some of the simple questions you can ask yourself. And yes, you're absolutely right, Peter. This advanced study is quite a personal journey, and it's quite interesting. For example, you and I get along so well because we share that commonality. And this is something that after you go through this process, this club shares something that other people just couldn't seem to understand it. And I find that quite beautiful.
And Jeff, just got a question here from Seth. So, I mean, just linking, as you say, purpose, meaning, and some of the topics that we went into just now. I mean, you can see his question there, and I guess that was an aspect of your journey, as you've mentioned now. But how much do you think that should be a consideration for people? Is studying a backup? You can't find a job, so you study, or is it a stepping stone or a period of time when you can find meaning in your life and go on to doing a job later? I mean, you see hundreds of students going through your MBA class, every year. What is the pattern of a typical student, and what practical advice would you have for people relating to this question on the screen now?
Right, beautiful question, Sis. And Sis looks like a very polished gentleman, so it's fantastic. I'm pretty sure that you're going to do this research for some part for your own purpose. So yes, I think everyone's different. And Sis look like come from a very rich family, just joking. So if the money is not a big issue, go by all means. I think you can analyze a problem, or I think it's irresponsible for me to give an answer without taking a person's every aspect into consideration. But I have to say, your research will kind of start defining you quite a bit. So if you think that I end up doing my second PhD on collective intelligence because I want to understand how people work together. And then based on that, I can do a little bit more consulting. I can do a little bit more coaching in a team fashion and also all that. So I have been trying to preach this to my students and my friends. Don't go into one thing thinking about one value only. Get PhD or not get PhD. Get master or not get master. You should think about every aspect of your life. What's a trade-off and what's a gain? If I do this PhD, would that be long-term for my soul? It would be happier. Would that get my job and all that? And then you evaluate which criteria means so much to you. Maybe, just like Peter. Peter did a PhD and he's absolutely happy with his work. So we're all different. But my suggestion is sit down, ask the right question first, and ask the question of those questions saying, are these good questions? And then go and sort out deciding which topic, which university, so forth and so forth. That's my approach.
Great. Jeff, thank you so much. And listen, I know you're going to love this question. So Sean, just fourth industrial revolution and digital disruption. I mean, no industry has been spared, certainly in 2020, as we've all had to adapt. And digital disruption is no longer because of customer experience or efficiency or cost reduction or revenue. It's now this year been about safety and health, because we've all had to sort of isolate in our homes but stay productive and keep our studies going. And you've been lecturing, and many others on this call have experienced that transition. I mean, I've got kids, and we've had to have them homeschooled and get the online content through the school and everything. And I guess we'll get to a new normal. But just to answer this question, do you feel the direction the world is heading in fourth industrial revolution, is there going to be a resurgence of the role and the importance of PhD students and postgraduate research in general?
So beautiful question. I'm going to answer this question from two levels. Back in the day when I was working for CSIR, I was known for advocating maybe PhD isn't useful unless a country can do something to extract the knowledge out of it. Because PhD is, when you start measuring an input to trying to tie in with a potential impact without the ability to demonstrate impact, that's quite a big gap. The potential impact and demonstrate the impact are two different things. So once you have a PhD, is that something that this country can absorb or not? So it's up to something that in national system innovation, all this policymaker they decided. So that itself, from the macro level, I am not sure. You should promote more young people to do PhD, knowing the fact that there's great strategy, so we can extract off the best out of them. But now I want to keep this conversation at a more personal level. If you spend more time doing PhD for the sake of doing PhD, instead of looking broadly, how are you going to apply it? How does that mean to you? You might not get the best out of your 4 or 3 or 5 years of hard work. I've seen stunning thinkers and doers just have a undergrad degree and potentially reaching their goals. But having said that, if you have the same drive, same thinking, same adaptability as those individuals only have an honors degree, trust me, your PhD or your master's will eventually earn you more credibility. And when let's say I'm having a job interview, stand side by side with Peter. Peter has PhD and industry experience, but I only have industry experience. In the end of the day, Peter's already have a little bit edge. So come back to your topic on the 4th industrial revolution. I think 4th industrial revolution or 5th or whatever it does one thing. It magnified the speed of change. It changed in many different ways, but it just makes things much faster, much more ferocious in aspects. So I need to gain every little bit of ethical, unfair advantage. So when I go through all my questions, which I talked about early on, do I want this? Do I want that? Out of this, what can I leverage? How can I make myself position ahead? Then I decide whether the PhD should work for me or not. Part of the reason I keep on pushing this PhD was because I'm also a lecturer. Even though I already have one PhD, I want to be able to stand in another field to say, this is the field I'm professing, and I understand what's going on here.
Jeff, thank you. Yeah, no, absolutely fascinating. And now, I mean, we spoke just now about the practicalities of finding a job or whether that's improved, getting a PhD, etc. So Lachelle asks, and being very open and honest, and thank you for that, Lachelle. She says, just for the benefit of people listening into the podcast, thank you, Dr. Jeff. Her question is, I found it difficult to get a job in biological sciences with just an MSc, but would you recommend working before doing a PhD?
I would actually, irrespective of which field you are, I always recommend people to work a little bit before you get a PhD. And especially when you start doing a PhD, if your supervisor, go and check out your supervisor's KPI, Key Performance Index. If he or she is only about churning out academic paper, the chance of this individual prepare you will be along the academic route. And the chance of you or pursuing a career in academic will be much more than other fields. And I think certain time in our life, and I'm also an executive coach, so I'm going to put on my executive coach hat. Somewhere down the line, we have a transition in our personality, in our mindset, aspiration, and so forth. And maybe just when those time comes or about there, you start doing your PhD or advanced degree, it will give you a lot more than anything else. And that's part of the reason why Gibbs, in terms of MBA, we do not take people without any work experience, because you actually don't know who you are just yet. And you're going to go into a marriage for 4 years, and this marriage will define who you are quite substantially in the rest of your life. And in terms of us, I sense there's another question underneath that question in terms of going out for a job and all that. Perhaps you should look into jobs that are on the adjacent side, or just be crazy, go and try it out some other field, let's say in business. I find that, I'm totally biased, I'm pretty out there. I find that scientists are actually better in the business world than anything else, because they know how to argue things, they know how to examine things, and if you can take away some of your emotion when you look at the problem, scientists are actually best type of individual, come up with good postulates, good assumption, knowing how to solve things, knowing how to get data. So yeah, I hope this answers your question. If not, you can always get hold of me via LinkedIn or whatever chat.
On the group. You're in the group, Jeff. So you're
Oh,
part of
in the
the
group. Yeah,
students.
that's true. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I'll put a
Congrats.
link on there now. And that's the best place. I mean, if anybody wants to get in touch with me, I mean, I had somebody on the group yesterday. They just needed a quick call, phoned them up. We talked about it. And it's actually a topic I'd like to get to just now. But I want to link in with what you mentioned just now, Jeff, about the supervisors. And this is something that comes up so often when I've been running workshops for many years. And I think in most of my coaching calls, and I'm sure it's a common topic that you have to deal with as well. Let's just talk about supervisors in general. I mean, you mentioned just now, pick a supervisor based on the direction that they're going to take with you and how academic or relevant that's going to be to industry. But generally speaking about supervisors, what is your advice to people? And I guess often the issue is a clash of personalities
Yeah.
or some sort of conflict, etc. But how do we frame this topic of supervisors in the right way for students?
So in terms of, let's say from gifts, I always tell my student when I'm lecturing them, go and do a cup of coffee with your potential supervisors. Go and do 5 cups of coffee with 5 potential different supervisors. Because just like you do, I mean, most of you, maybe some you do, you're lucky, but most of you date a few people first to find out what you like, what you don't like before you enter into an engagement. Similarly, for master's degree, it would be 1 or 2 years, PhD, 3 or 4 years. You should actually just go and have a chat to see, would you, I mean, just like what the company Zappos, their hiring policy is, can I grab a beer with this person and still not get bored and all that? And when you have that cup of coffee, try to see through all the stars and moonlights and all this beautiful thing, because of course as academic we will always dazzle you with a whole bunch of knowledge, it sounds great and all that, but go and check it out. Is this person, can he be your friend when the time is tough? Will the person be here for you? And when you tell the person that I like to be micromanaged for my PhD, will the person be keen to micromanage you? If not, get a co-supervisor. Because micromanager sounds like a terrible term, but sometimes in your research journey, you need to be micromanaged. And one of my mistakes in my life, I went to a period, I don't want to be managed. I thought I know everything. Ooh, my boy, it's going to whack me very, very hard. So I
Jeff,
think that's why. Yeah. I think
great,
don't
Jeff.
just look at your credential. Yeah.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And I mean, I guess, do you think there's a role for coaching? I mean, some of the things that we're talking about today. So you have your supervisor that's sort of allocated to you by the institution, and you may be able to influence that or change it if there's a real conflict at some point. And there's an academic expectation on, the commitment. They've approved your proposal now, and they want to get you through because it's, the university gets funding because of the number of PhDs that are done. So they have a vested interest in getting you through. But I mean, some of the topics you touched on there, I mean, I also have heard a lot of people find some value in, you can get a co-supervisor or maybe just look for coaching that maybe fills in some of those other gaps. And I mean, we provide some of that here in the Student Success Coach community and the courses and the content that we provide, etc. But do you think that's valuable? Is that something people should do to be more successful in their studies?
I believe that everyone should try to gain a little bit unfair but ethical advantage. Your supervisor fulfill a role, your coach will fulfill a role, your ranting buddy, agony aunt will fulfill a role, your previous student, oh, by the way, before you choose a supervisor, also go and try to find out their old students, what do they think about this, I mean, getting some feedback from their previous students and all that. So I think this is absolutely vital. And coach, the role you're playing now, Peter, I think is have immense value, because sometimes with a supervisor, they're quite choppy, and we academics, I speak for myself, we have lots of things to do, want to get out there. And in the beginning, you also don't know what you don't know. You don't know what to ask. And you might be going through some sort of a transition period, some training. But people like Peter or other people like Peter out there have this experience. Why are you busy talk and all that? Out of the blues, Peter will ask you, oh, by the way, have you considered this website doing that thing? And you're like, wow. So yes, absolutely. Get yourself a coach if you can.
Yeah. And Jeff, I mean, I think what we're sort of also seeing is a bit of micro coaching. I mean, so there was a lady yesterday, and I don't know, Precious, if you're on the webinar today, I certainly sent the link to you. But she popped something on the group and needed some help, and we exchanged numbers. And I gave her a call on the way home, and I think she was in Zambia, and she was quite demotivated, and she just needed some support with a couple of suggestions. And I did my best based on the information she was giving me. And it's possible that that 20-minute interaction just had a ripple effect in her study and in her motivation. And I gave her some advice about how she should get on with her primary research and get her interview scheduled. And she was sort of wheel spinning a little bit in the secondary research and the literature review. And I sort of really advised her to start booking those interviews, committing people to those time slots, because that's going to be on the critical path of her degree. And she's just, making things get longer and longer. And so it was almost just coaching her to hurry up with that next stage. I don't know if it helped. I'd love to hear from Precious, if she is online. But Jeff, that hopefully just one conversation, as you said, or one website or one article or one webinar can make a huge difference.
So Peter, don't laugh at me. Even though my first PhD in computational chemistry, I'm supposed to be quite analytical, scientific, and all that. But one thing I do believe is something called magic of curiosity, magic of you look for it more, magic will actually come out more. And sometimes a 5 minutes conversation when you need it in that right context, the ripple effect, the unintended consequences will just go far, far more than you expect. And as an executive coach myself, sometimes I'll sit there with my coachee, and for the first 20 minutes, I hardly even say the word. The person will talk and talk and talk and talk, and suddenly they will come up with an answer. They will come up with a motivation. And sometimes it comes to you like this. But yes, definitely, coaching, find someone to talk to, and also that stretch your mind a little bit. It helps you to do more lateral thinking.
And the best coaches will, as you say, be good listeners. They'll ask great questions, and they'll help the person self-actualize and find the journey for themselves, which is often the best journey. And it's not often just being told what to do. It's being encouraged and motivated and given options. And then when I talked it through with Precious, I gave her examples from my own studies, and ultimately she's got to take action. But perhaps she had some encouragement and some advice to go forward. Jeff, let's Yolandi's put a question to say, and those listening on the podcast, what were some of your biggest challenges or hurdles, and how did you overcome them? And please be honest, Jeff. I mean, obviously don't share all and we don't want to put people off doing a PhD. I mean, so we're trying to get people going and successful, and it's all about student success. But give us some of those practical examples, and how did you deal with them?
So this is about me, not other people, just me. Firstly, I hate admins. And when the admin system didn't go well, I got pissed off. And I got pissed off because I was stupid. So I delayed my ethical clearance for a year and a half and all this. But doesn't mean I wasted the whole year. I was still doing something on the side. So firstly, don't let your emotion get in the way. Sometimes just, okay, I'm angry now, I'm sad now, I'm blah, 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 all that. Remove yourself out there thinking, if I still get annoyed with this admin people, I still have to deal with them a year from now. Or I feel so sad and down and all this, but then without this PhD or master's, I might not get to the job I want. First things, get some negative emotion out of the way. And this is probably some of the roles that your coach or your peers can play. Number two, if you can, don't think tomorrow is another day. Because when tomorrow is another day, day after tomorrow is also another day, and you keep on postponing something. The best way is you can procrastinate. I don't know how many of you watched the video from Adam Grant talk about some procrastinator actually more innovative. Beautiful, fine. As long as you mentally keep on incubating your question all the time. But I find that sometimes the best things to do is just sit down, write 3 or 4 sentences, write 10 sentences in a small incremental fashion. You don't have to wait until the results come through to start discussing your results. You don't have to wait until certain things to complete to start doing certain things. And your PhD will change all the time. So don't be lazy. I suffer from that. I like to do things in big chunk. I'm just either high, low, high, I go for extremes. So don't do that. Another thing I want to talk about is do yourself a favor. do not complicate your life. Go and ask Peter, what's the best, quickest, fastest thing to do this? I'm busy teaching a group of PhD candidates in the moment. They read aloud, and I say, so what is a gap in this field? They say, oh, okay, some of them not quite sure yet. I say, before you start looking at others, you should dive into literature, only focusing on the gap part. So there are quicker way of doing things, and later on you can retrofit and to enrich your knowledge. And even when you design your experiment, I decided to design something quite difficult, and it's only a certain window I can analyze those constructs and all that. Oh my boy, I spent like 2.5 years just to gathering the data, and sometimes certain things didn't go right. I have to throw away a whole bunch of things. Do yourself a favor. This PhD just a little aspect of your whole life. Certain things you want to do, you can do later. Try not to complicate yourself. And lastly but not least, have somebody hold you in check. Have someone to discuss with, because PhD is quite a lonely journey sometimes. And if you don't have that interaction, some people are able to, you will set a milestone, but generally when you fail, nobody cares. And life does take over. You have kids, you have work and all that. So find yourself, have a support system. Yes, Peter?
No, Jeff, I mean, brilliant. Thank you for finishing off your answer on that question. I mean, those are all excellent insights. And it just reminded me, I've just launched a new course on getting Kanban organized, where I teach people, the techniques of Kanban and understanding all the tasks that you have to do in a project, and then mapping those onto a Kanban board, where you'd have a backlog of those tasks. Then you'd put some of them in the to-do column, and you can do this on Trello. There's a couple of other tools which I actually demonstrate in the course, and just really with the aim, as you say, of helping students just get laser focused on what are the key tasks they need to do. And the middle column then is what is in progress, and I teach a principle of limiting work in progress. And then your final column on the right-hand side is done. And that's where we celebrate momentum and progress. And like you said, sometimes it's just getting a task from your backlog onto your to-do list, into progress, and then into the done column. So I'll pop a link to the course, and it's available on promotional discount to everybody. So I'll just put a link in there and go through it, because it's something that's helped me over 20 years. And every time I run a project, or when I did my PhD, one of the other techniques I teach in one of the other courses is the weekly supervisor status report. And you just send your supervisors one email per week explaining what you did the previous week and what you commit to doing the next week. And you limit the topics that you talk about, and that cadence of regular progress and discipline of moving tasks through that pipeline, each of those little tasks adds up to a PhD. It adds up to, Kara's saying she's got exams on Monday and Wednesday. And, if you work backwards from a successful exam, there's a whole bunch of tasks that you need to go through. And sometimes we get demotivated and frustrated because we think we've got too much to do. But if you just focus in on one task, get that through your Kanban board and into done, and then take the next one and move that across, limit the number that you have in your progress column so that you are focused on just a handful of tasks that you could use to make progress and get motivated. And I just, as you were talking, I was reminded of that.
I love that. I really, really do. Can I add one more thing based on some way extend to what you're saying? Use the tool as much as possible, but this fundamental mindset shift you also need to come through. You're not in school anymore when you're doing advanced degree. You're not in varsity when you do advanced degree. And I have seen so many people just want to get their box tick, assignment tick, and all that. I understand certain times you have issues in life, you have challenges, you can't do it. But if you just want here to do tick boxes, your PhD, your master's degree will not be as powerful for you when you end up getting it. You might be able to get a degree, but you still don't know how to hold a beautiful conversation, discuss certain logic and all that. So try to do more than just what you are doing now. Try to use this as an opportunity to do better.
Yeah. Jeff, can you just coach Kara quickly live on this webinar now? She's got exams on Monday and Wednesday. and she's struggling with procrastination. We all struggle with procrastination. I mean, you've got a double PhD. I've got a PhD. I think I'm the world's worst procrastinator. How can we help Cara today so that when she finishes this webinar, she's got the motivation and the support that she needs to be as successful as possible in her exams on Monday and Wednesday?
Well, there's many reasons beneath that procrastination, but I think Cara looks like a bright lady over there, so perhaps she is very confident that she will do this very well, or perhaps she just loves the stress behind it. So first, she needs to know some of this underlying mentality. She thinks that she's been doing so well always, so therefore she probably will get over that, and maybe she just loves the thrill. So that's itself something for her to address. But just quick fix right now, I think the best way to do is find 2 or 3 of your friends who love study, who will be sitting with you or even use a webinar every hour to check in, and who's going to be nasty to you for the right purpose. Form that support group quite quickly and sit through it. But of course, that also depends on whether Cara's extrovert or introvert and all that. If you're introvert, just put it on Zoom. If you know all that. I hope that helps. We all procrastinate.
So, yeah, Jeff, thank you for your insights.
Yeah, because we think we can get away with it, and some people just love the thrill of
it. Maybe we like working under pressure. So I'm going to have a go as well, being a coach as well. So Cara, we've learned, I think, in one of the previous webinars about the power of burning your boats, where you make a public commitment to getting something done. And as we've spoken about, whether that's, getting fit and you need to go to the gym and you commit to meeting somebody at 6 o'clock the next day and you promise them, like if Jeff is my gym buddy, I say, Jeff, I will be at the gym at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. I've burnt my boats and I know that I will set my alarm and I will be there. I've given examples in the webinars and I teach them in my course from my own life of where I've implemented entire new IT systems because I've made public commitments to hundreds of users in a town hall that I would do that within a certain time frame. So, Cara, what I would like you to do, I'd like you to put a statement in the chat and commit to everybody on the webinar today. How many hours studying for Monday and Wednesday next week are you going to do today? So before you go to sleep tonight, and don't make it too big. Don't be too ambitious. You've only got the afternoon and the evening left. We don't want you to stay up the whole night. If it's 1 or 2 hours on each of those 2 subjects, just put it in the chat and say, I will study 1 hour on this, 1 hour on that. Don't do exactly that. Do what is going to work for you. But my encouragement to you, Cara, and my question to you, as Jeff and I are coaching you live in this webinar to overcome this procrastination, is to make that commitment to all of us and see if that helps you. And we'd like to hear your feedback tomorrow in the group as to whether that was useful. So, Cara, we waiting for your commitment there. Okay, David says he's also working on his second PhD. I will love to speak with you. It's not too late to stop, David. No, we want. No, absolutely. And David, so my suggestion to you, and I saw your other comment to have a chat. Please come into the Facebook group, drop me a DM, and we can have a chat. I don't charge for coaching. I'm very happy to do a 30-minute chat, and they point you in the right direction. If it's my content or somebody else's content or some of Jeff's content or somewhere else. Depending on what methodology you're doing or area of your study, I may or may not be able to help you, but if I can, I certainly will do my very best. So, David, join us in the Facebook group. I put the link on the chat, and you can pop me a DM, and we can exchange numbers and do a 30-minute WhatsApp call. And I'm sure Jeff would love to know what your other PhD is on. I interviewed a lady the other day on the podcast. She's got 4 degrees from WITS, and I think the record at WITS is 5 degrees. So fantastic to see everybody just getting themselves advanced. So Cara's put a statement on there. So she says, I will be getting about 4 to 5 more hours of studying done today. So just to recap, Cara said that she was struggling with procrastination. Jeff coached her a little bit. I coached her a little bit. And we spoke about the principle of burning your boats. And Cara has now done that. She's burnt her boats and committed to us all. She's going to get 4 to 5 more hours of studying. So Cara, that's out there now. You're committed. I've got no doubt this is going to be top of your mind when you finish now on this webinar. And the great thing is you can do that before 6, 7 o'clock this evening, and then you've got the evening off, and you've got 4 to 5 hours done, and you don't have to feel guilty. You can wake up tomorrow after a good night's rest and carry on. And we wish you every success in your exams next week. Jeff, let's take a few more questions, and I see lots of chat supporting Cara, so that's absolutely fantastic. Nosipo, how do you deal with doubt when you've experienced failure? I mean, this is so prevalent, and I mean, the year that we've all had, the mental stress and the extra burden and worry that we've all got in our personal lives, never mind in our academic lives. Jeff, what are your techniques for dealing with doubt when you've experienced failure?
So Nasipo, first statement I would like to make is even Wonder Woman or Supergirl has a downtime. We always have downtime, and there's always setbacks. And as long as I always ask, as long as I'm not going to lose lots of money, going to jail, someone get hurt, or I'm not going to die, tomorrow will be another day. And what holds you back is actually just your negative emotion. Sometimes your ego gets bruised, sometimes just because your motivation dampened a little bit. And that's once again tied back to this coaching. Have a coach, have a support group will help you to bounce back. You will always have doubt, and some doubts are wonderful doubts, i.e. idea doubts. You should doubt your idea all the time, and so that you can go out and look for new research or new data to help you. But when you experience failure, just remember, if you never experience failure, you're not playing your max. And that's the paradoxical nature of life. Have a drink, have a coffee, get some whiskey, or whatever you can. Tomorrow will be another day.
Jeff, thank you. I think that is so powerful. And if I may, I'm going to add my support to Nosipo with a suggestion, which I've actually written about and taught about. And it's these I will statements written by Sean Thompson. And in that article that I've just put onto the chat, I was going through some issues of self-confidence. Look, corporate life is tough. So it's difficult being a nice guy, let's put it like that. And so what I did, we had Sean Thompson come in and he coached us about I will statements, and many of them relate to overcoming, personal circumstances. He lost his son when his son was 14 or 15. So he's really been through, I mean, you just mentioned, Jeff, now about those examples of people getting hurt and dying, and those are real life issues. You can't just tomorrow won't be another day. That's devastating. And he really teaches and coaches from that depth of emotion. And and he coaches people to write these I will statements. So like Cara said, I will study today. And the one, Nosipo, that I wrote and shared with the rest of my colleagues when I was going through a lot of self-doubt and had experience of failure was that I will see myself through the eyes of my children. And my, when I walk in the evening, and if you've got kids or you've got kids in your extended family or you're aware of kids, they see you with this innocence, and as their dad or their mom or their auntie or their uncle, whatever relation you are to them, you're amazing to them. It doesn't matter how bad your day is in the office. And I just had to reverse that perspective and see myself through the eyes of my children. And it is hard, but that has helped me. And so maybe in that article, just go and have a look at what I've done there and what I've shared in that article. Then Chester, I mean, this is just, we've been dealing with writing on a number of these webinars. So he talks about, he's a second-year student. Those of you listening in on the podcast, the question up on the screen says, I'm a second-year student and I've been struggling with my writing for the past 2 years. And my question is, what can someone like me do to get better in writing academic papers? Jeff?
So first thing first, get yourself a coach, get yourself an editor, get yourself somebody out there can show you the rope. That's always faster to learn from other people. Peter's stunning. He's brilliant in this area. So ask him for help, and websites out there. Second thing I've been trying to emphasize these days with my students, do you read the paper or do you analyze the paper? And sometimes when you go and take one paragraph, you will see people first present fact, argument, counter-argument, assertion, and example, and assert again. Analyze the pattern of how people combine their the paragraph. Even if you don't use the most beautiful language out there, but if you can convey a thought, can pull people in, tease people, people want to learn more from you, then you're already 3/4 of the way there, in my humble opinion. So 2 things: talk to people like Peter and those people who can write, surround yourself with their help. And secondly, when you read academic paper, analyze, don't just read.
Great, Jeff. And there is 2 videos on this YouTube channel, which were recorded in one of the workshops that I ran at Wits University a couple of years ago. So there's 3 hours of free teaching about writing here on this YouTube channel. Some of that content and other content I've converted and packaged into an online course, which you are able to go and have a look at and to access. But there is plenty of free content on this YouTube channel. So Chester, you can go and have a look at some of that. And in a previous webinar, we've taught specific practices and principles about how to improve your writing through improved sentence construction and other very practical ideas at that level. Karen, thanks for your advice to Nosipo. Reflect on your doubt, the failure, recognize your success, acknowledge them, then work through the areas you're having trouble with. And writing could be one of those. And I think, Jeff, you mentioned earlier, just practice generative writing. Don't judge yourself, as you're getting the writing out. That's for later and for editing. Jeff, maybe any other sort of, I was just, reflecting on a couple of the other themes, and the do's or don'ts, and maybe just as we sort of wrap up in the last 10 minutes or so, we've spoken a bit about emotion, we've spoken a bit about overcoming self-doubt, etc. What about just maybe a little bit of the process of postgraduate research? And I guess, I was chatting with this lady yesterday on the coaching call, and I know Yolandi, we're going to book a call as well and just chat about the process of proposal analysis or data gathering analysis, etc. Just take us through your thoughts on process and how maybe you improved that from one PhD to the next one.
All right. But maybe before we close, we should spend a little bit of time to talk about how beautiful this process is, because I feel that so far we swinging towards the anxiety, negative emotion part. But I would like to tell you, this is regardless what motives that drives you here, and if you get accepted, it is very likely that you can finish it. Otherwise, university will not take you in. And it's a beautiful process how you can get more out of there. So just trust the process. But since we talk about process, well, firstly, bug the crap out of your supervisors without totally offend your supervisor. Right? And if you have this very hands-off lay of supervisor, then you should have thought of that before you start. So as I say, know your processes. Firstly, know your supervisor. Then you go home, touch yourself in the heart. Why are you doing this? Then start looking for the gaps out there. Right? Once you find the gap, nice supervisor, all you things you kind of like to do, there will always be a trade-off. Because I've seen so many people want to say the word and why at the same time, go to the moon and all that. You don't want to be that part. You just want to be great in a certain part. So you also need to learn to let go a little bit. Then it comes to defining your research question. I think that's one of the most important aspects. You can still change along the way, but if you haven't set a whole bunch of good questions to ask yourself, what is a good research question to ask? Maybe I will advise you to do so. Just set a whole bunch of questions, and I'm sure you can contact Peter, or you want to contact me. I'm very happy to help out as well. When you have good questions that help you to guide your research question, your output will be much better. But also allow yourself some time to know that you don't know. Sometimes the question will just pop out right after a year of struggling through. So that's before you define the research question. So once you define the research question, then you need to know is how to apply your lateral thinking when you're searching for references. Don't just keep on searching from one type of thing. I see Honey is here, a beautiful lady, now currently doing a PhD candidate with Gibbs. So she's passionate about corporate rescue, business rescue. So she's been busy. Sorry, Honey, I'm using you as an example just because I love you. business rescue and all that. And she struggled to find some references. Then we had a chat and she immediately go, aha, what is corporate turnaround or turnaround strategy, financial risk and all that. And she suddenly realized she doesn't have to look in that part. And we know how to grab all the other good reference out there and bring it back and zip it in such a coherent and logical manner that actually enhance your PhD. And lastly, but not least, Peter's already mentioned, hey, the Kanban, the timelines and all that, at the end of the day, a good PhD is a PhD that's done. It's not the one that you talk about all the time. I think you were the one who taught me along this direction, but in a more elegant fashion. Peter, I might have missed something, so ask me along, please.
No, Jeff, thank you. I think that's I mean, we could do a whole hour on the process, and maybe that's something we'll schedule for early in the new year. I think one of the things people do struggle with is getting from one phase to the next. So, how do you get a proposal done, wrap that up, and then get into analysis, wrap that up? It sort of all blurs, I think, and people struggle to step back, and that's sometimes where a coach can help. But you've got to see it in the phases of a project, particularly, I think, and there's some criteria to get into that phase and some criteria to get out of that phase. And it's never going to be a hard stop between one phase and the next. But many people drop out, I think, because they're unable to get from one step to the next. And often in analysis, they've got all this data, they've applied their methodology, and they're over analyzing. And as you say, the best PhD is one that's done. I mean, unfortunately, none of us on this call, and I may be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think anybody's going to get a Nobel Prize for our research. And I think it'll be fantastic if you are, and you can, when you're up on the stage, talk about this webinar and how wrong we were. But the reality is we're all going to make a contribution to knowledge, and it's more important that we make that contribution rather than we aim too high and try and change the world or try and fix all the world's problems. And so we've got those research questions. Answer one or two of them. If you can't answer some of them, then there's a section called limitations in your thesis. Put the limitations in there, and somebody else in your future work section can pick that up and carry on with it. It's not completely lost. So there's lots of content and courses and coaching available about how to get finished, how to complete your degree, and use all these project management techniques to stay on track and to be successful. So just as we wrap up, Peter, you're a regular on these webinars and in my courses, and you give me lots of feedback about the content that I provide, and thank you for your support and engagement. And he's written, and we've put it up on the screen there, anybody listening on the podcast. And Jeff, I don't know if you've got any thoughts about Peter's bow tie there. He looks really ready for a job interview. So Peter looks like he's going to get his Nobel Prize, which is fantastic. But he says, great informative interview. Many people will benefit from this insightful interview. Thank you so much, Peter and Jeff. Peter, it's an absolute pleasure from both of us. And I'm going to give Jeff a chance just to say thanks and some closing words. But next week, I'm interviewing Bubu Bana on a new jobs platform that he's launched and founded and trying to get going, whereby high-quality students can register on that platform for micro jobs, and you can get paid for doing these jobs for his corporate clients that are also signed up onto the platform, and they then post the jobs onto the platform, and you can go and then get these jobs and do them. So I'll be interviewing him next week, so be very insightful. I think those of you that are open to maybe doing extra work and getting extra cash while you're doing your studies, but you can't commit to too many hours in a day, and it's just a couple here or there. The job box platform might be something that you want to have a look at. So come onto the webinar next week, and we'll have Bubu Bana in conversation. So Jeff, over to you for some last thoughts, just as we finish off today.
I think the last thought will be, this is actually a beautiful, beautiful journey on your life. And this journey can enhance you or greatly enhance you. It's up to you. And sometimes you just need to maybe apply a little bit of behavioral economics to yourself. Instead of telling yourself, in order for me to get my master's degree, I need to sacrifice. I sacrifice the time to go play golf with Peter. I sacrifice the time to have with kids. You have this deficit mindset. Or you can say, in order for me to get a PhD or master's degree that lead to a better future, grow me as an individual, I need to look for ways to invest. You know what? For this Wednesday and Friday, I have exams. Instead of going to my social media, let me invest 4 hours there. And once you get through that, pat yourself in the back. We also don't celebrate enough. I think we don't celebrate enough. We need to use that part, say, yeah, we'll get this done, go and celebrate it. And I don't want to make this journey sounds terrible and all that. But of course, it's not easy. Let's put it out there, because if it's so easy, every second person have a master's degree, PhD, and then we're probably going to create something else above than PhD. So it's still precious. But in the end of the day, engage it with your curiosity. Engage it with curiosity, thinking about what can you do the best. Because, September 2022 at 2:00, that moment will never come back. Sorry to sound like I'm having this existential crisis. But when you go in, you must just play to win, and just try to play to win as big as you can for your life, because this moment will never come back. And last word is, guys, thank you so much. And go and push those positivity to South Africa. Go and push your inquisitiveness to South Africa. Go and take Peter's kind-heartedness, this type of willingness to help. Since now you've been helped, pass it forward to help other people. You might not be able to help them on research, or maybe, but you can always help them in different ways. And this is a country we need all of us to help out one another, so that we can not just bring the sexy back, we bring the thinking back.
Jeff, thank you so much for your time. I know that you're very busy marking and getting through all the things that you need to do at the end of an MBA year. And I really just appreciate your time coming in today. And my only thought, just reflecting on your one point around not ever having that moment again, what is it that today you could do that in a year you'll be grateful for? Because that's when you're going to look back and say, I wish, that I had done this or that. And you've got to have that mindset. And if you can get tasks well managed, you can also create tasks for relaxing, and then you don't think you're procrastinating because you're organized and you know what you need to do, but you can also give time for yourself to relax and enjoy. So we've seen an example of that this afternoon. Cara's going to get good 3-4 hours studying this afternoon, and then she's going to relax this afternoon and crack on again with it tomorrow, and let us know in the group how she gets on in her exams next week. So to everybody who's provided comments and engaged today, we've provided lots of links and information for you to go and check out, and a reminder of the webinar for next week. So that's it for this week. Thanks everybody for joining. Jeff, once again, thank you very much, and goodbye to everybody.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Peter. Cheers. Bye.